Hello fellas. Welcome back to Top 5 Choices. This is Haley from Top 5 Choices, and I hope you all are doing good. In today's video, I'm gonna do a detailed review and pick the top 5 best business laptops under $2,000, 2022. After doing proper researches, we came to the conclusion that meets the best in terms of overall. Kindly leave a like if you find this helpful, and I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications if you haven't. We will be also providing affiliates link to purchase from Amazon. Kindly use it for best offers and purchase from anywhere in the world. We'll be back with more videos. Unlike the ThinkPad X1 Carbon, the ELITEBOOK 840 lacks the option for a 4K screen. The display it does offer is well suited to business use, though. It sports full HD resolution, 1920 by 1080 pixels, and I found the 400 nit rated maximum brightness to be perfectly viewable even in a sunlit room. I also appreciate the anti-glare finish, which reduces distracting reflections in brightly lit conditions. Note that the 400 nit panel is an upgrade. The base model has just 250 nits, which probably isn't adequate in most office environments. Touch support is also optional. Our review unit lakh also offers the ELITEBOOK 840 with an optional integrated screen privacy filter, which combines increased 1000 nit brightness with reduced viewing angles to prevent people from snooping over your shoulder. Integrated privacy filters are also available on Lenovo and Dell business laptops, but in almost all cases they reduce image quality, so we don't recommend them unless you're exceptionally worried about people nearby glimpsing sensitive information above the display. There's a 720p webcam that produces average video quality. I noticed a bit of noise and artifacts when using the camera in a room with plenty of natural light filtering in through the windows. HP notes that the ELITEBOOK 840's camera has an exceptionally wide field of view at about 86 degrees, which can help viewers pick up more of your body language and show off more of your wall decorations. But many people would still prefer the increased image quality that comes from a higher resolution sensor, something that is still unfortunately rare even on premium business laptops. The ThinkPad X1 Nano looks similar to all of its predecessors, with a sleek carbon fiber and magnesium chassis. Unlike the others, though, this ThinkPad has a much lighter chassis, weighing only 2 pounds. The interior is compact, with the touchpad at the bottom accompanied with discrete buttons for the pointing stick, a fingerprint reader to the right, a nearly edge-to-edge keyboard above and 2 speaker vents closing in on the corners. The bezels on the display are relatively thin, apart from the top, which is thicker thanks to the webcam. The X1 Nano's 13.0-inch, 2K, 2160x 1350 pixel, anti-glare display is gorgeous. While watching the trailer for Wonder Woman 1984, the wide shot of the city was vibrant with different hints of colors from the luminescent signs that contrasted well with the eerie fog in the background. Even in the close-up of Diana's face, the tone of her cheeks, the lipstick on her lips, and the furrow in the brow were all sharp, crisp, and full of color. According to our colorimeter gamut, the X1 Nano produced 101.1% of the sRGB spectrum, which is slightly better than the Dell XPS 13, 97.9%, but did not do as well as the Apple MacBook Pro M1, 110.6%. Our test also determined that the X1 Nano produces 430 nits of brightness, which falls slightly behind the Dell XPS 13, 469 nits. The Apple MacBook Pro M1, 435 nits, is similarly bright. Typing is very enjoyable on the X1 Nano, as the keys are very punchy. When testing out the keyboard on 10 fast fingers typing test, I was able to type 49 words per minute, which isn't too far off from my 53 WPM average, and I think it's the best I've done in a long time. Though the dimensions of the keyboard are a lot smaller than I'm used to, I think the spacing of the keys and the size of the keys really help with the comfortability of typing. The ZBOOK FIREFLY 14G8's all-metal chassis reminds me of the first time we see Doc Brown pull up in the all-aluminum DeLorean in Back to the Future. The Firefly has that same angular, aerodynamic curbside appeal. Though lightweight, the FIREFLY G8 is sturdy, having passed several mil-spec tests for drops and spills. If you're on the go and are prone to a few mishaps, then don't worry because the sleek Firefly will keep on keeping on. The ZBOOK FIREFLY 14G8 is lightly coated with a silvery gray hue. That is par for the course with ZBooks, and yet I find myself drawn to its understated styling featuring a simple chrome Z logo on the lid. Laptops are meant to open quickly so that one can get right to work. That's often not the case with most devices, but gratefully the HP has an angular design that creates a lovely groove for you to pop the lid open. When opened, you'll find a 14-inch display surrounded by a thin plastic bezel. The IR webcam, equipped with a manual security shutter, is placed in the center above the display and is hidden within the bezel. Looking down, we find a black chiclet-style backlit keyboard with letters displayed in a clean white font. There's a track nub between the G, H, and B keys if you like that sort of thing. The touchpad is beneath the keyboard and is slightly left of center and comes with two very clicky buttons above it. On the right, beneath the keyboard, is a fingerprint reader that helps keep your files and data secure. The HP ZBOOK FIREFLY 14G8 has a solid selection of ports, giving users ample connectivity options. On the left, you'll find a 3.5 combo headphone/mic port and two USB Type of 5 gigabits per second ports for fast charging and data transfers. The biggest news is that there's now a 14-inch MacBook Pro. It isn't physically much larger than the previous 13-inch model, thanks to a taller screen with narrower borders. It's available in silver and space gray, no festive colors for Pro models, it seems. The brushed metal texture of previous models remains, and the Apple logo on the lid is mirrored, but not illuminated. In profile, the new MacBook Pro actually looks a bit retro, with raised feet, flat sides, and almost no curve to the edges of the lid. The lid can be raised easily and the hinge feels very firm, but one ergonomic issue is the sharp corners of the little lip provided for your thumb. Build quality overall is very good, and there's no flex at all to the lid. What many people will appreciate is the return of various ports, most notably MagSafe for charging. This is a new, thinner connector that Apple calls MagSafe 3, and neither chargers nor MacBooks themselves are physically compatible with older models. You can still use Type-C ports to charge the new MacBook Pro, but MagSafe will be quicker, depending on the wattage of your power adapter. The thunk sound as the connector snaps into place is familiar and satisfying. As convenient as universal Type-C charging is, having MagSafe in addition is the best of both worlds. This is our first experience with Apple's M1 Pro SoC, which promises even more power than the M1 from last year's 13-inch MacBook Pro refresh. Apple is drawing new lines between its Pro laptops and the MacBook Air, or just MacBook, as it might be called. The M1 Pro leverages the same architecture as the M1 and is built on the same 5 nanometers process. Instead of 4 high-performance and 4 efficiency cores, there are now 6 or 8 of the former and only 2 of the latter. The GPU core count is also up from 7 or 8 to 14 or 16. Memory continues to be integrated, but you have up to 32 GB with the M1 Pro, and it has a faster interconnect. Of course, the M1 Max CPU option pushes these figures up even further. The ThinkPad X1 Carbon, Gen 9, has the classic raven black, rectangular ThinkPad aesthetic we've come to expect from Lenovo over the years. The lightweight chassis is made from a combination of magnesium and carbon fiber, with a nice, soft touch feel on the palm rest. There's an optional carbon fiber weave lid that gives the laptop an added touch of class and a softer texture, but it only comes on configurations that have a 3840 by 2400 display. There are a few subtle, but important, design changes from the Gen 8 version of the ThinkPad X1 Carbon. The chassis is a little bit longer and narrower, 12.38 by 8.72 inches versus 12.7 by 8.5 inches, in order to accommodate a 16:10 aspect ratio screen as opposed to the 16:9 panels Carbons have used previously. This allows for more vertical screen real estate you can use for reading web pages or editing documents. The dual hinges from Gen 8 have been replaced by one long, round hinge that takes up most of the width of the lid. And, in a welcome change, the power button now sits above the right side of the keyboard, where we would expect it. Though most laptops have their power buttons above the keyboard, Lenovo had placed the 8X1 Carbon, Gen 8, S button on the side so that users could easily turn it on even if the lid was closed and it was connected to a docking station. However, the button was small, skimpy and awkward in that location. At 12.38 by 8.72 by 0.59 inches and 2.5 pounds, the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon, Gen 9, is extremely thin and light for any laptop, particularly one with a 14-inch display. By comparison, the Dell XPS 13, 2.8 pounds/11.6 by 7.8 by 0.6 inches, is smaller but heavier, while the Asus ZenBook 13, 11.97 by 7.99 by 0.55 inches, 2.5 pounds, is smaller with the same weight. The ThinkPad X1 Nano, 2 pounds/12.7 by 8.5 by 0.6 inches, is much more portable but, like Dell and Asus offerings, has only a 13-inch display. Not surprisingly, the ThinkPad X1 Yoga, Gen 6, which is the 2-in-1 version of the Carbon, is heavier and larger at 3 pounds/12.3 by 8.8 by 0.6 inches in order to accommodate its convertible mechanism. Where many Ultrabooks only make room for USB Type-C/Thunderbolt ports, the ThinkPad X1 Carbon, Gen 9, manages to pack in all the major ports most people need. The left side features 2 Thunderbolt 4/USB-C ports, a USB Type-A 3.2, 5 gigabits per second, port and a full-size HDMI out. The right side provides room for a second USB Type-A port and a Kensington lock.